firstly, can you explain what Neuralink is and what the goal of it is?
We put a chip in your brain to control your mind. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Concerns not alleviated.
Yeah, there you go. Jump right in. Step right up. Who wants one? So Neuralink, you'll be able to see Neuralink coming from a very long distance, because any device that you implant in a human you have to go through so many tests. It moves very slowly. You just do a few people at a time, and then you go to extreme lengths to prove safety. You have to go through the FDA approvals. Like, we're not trying to sidestep any regulatory approvals. We're doing everything by the book and with maximum. We're going far beyond what the requirements are of the FDA from a safety standpoint. Mm-hmm. And the initial devices will really just be pretty basic. It'll be about restoring functionality to people who've lost their connection between their brain and their body. So you can imagine, like, if, say, Stephen Hawking could talk or communicate as fast as somebody with a fully functioning body. Mm-hmm. That would be amazing. So that's like what we're trying to do. That's our first application, is to restore functionality to quadriplegics, tetraplegics, and people who've just, for whatever reason, no longer have a connection between, or a limited connection between their brain and their body. Mm-hmm. And then the second application would be restoration of eyesight. So if somebody's gone completely blind, maybe even has lost the optic nerve, you can actually still directly stimulate the neurons in the visual part of the cortex. So you can give direct vision to the brain. Mm-hmm. In fact, you could actually, depending upon what cameras you use, you can actually see in different wavelengths.
Okay.
Wow. Geordie LaForge from, you could have that, I actually watched an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation with special effects compared to what we're used to, are not that great, but he's got the wraparound, glasses, and he can see in different wavelengths. So you can see ultraviolet, infrared, and that kind of thing. So you can actually do that. You could say you could see in radar if you want. Mm.
And what's the long term goal for it? Because I think myself and others, I think the first part sounds fine. Sounds good.
That's hard to argue with.
Yeah. But long term, I think the concern that people have is this just leading us into this dystopian transhumanist future? Where does it go? What are the ethical boundaries of it?
Well, the thing I wanted to emphasize is that it's not going to sort of pounce on us overnight. Mm-hmm. You'll see it coming. It's going to be very slow. In fact, I really think that artificial general intelligence or digital superintelligence is likely to arrive before we have really advanced neural links. At least that's where the trend is right now. Mm-hmm. So, but ultimately the idea would be to achieve a symbiosis between our biological mind and our kind of digital mind. So we're already kind of a cyborg if you think of your phone and your computers as an extension of yourself. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you leave your phone behind, it's like you have missing limb syndrome. You're where did it go? So the phone is a kind of an extension of ourselves, like computer is. The various applications that we use are already an extension of ourselves. So we are already a cyborg. It's just that the interface is with our eyes and our fingers. Yeah. And that interface, especially output, the rate at which we can type words into a phone or a computer, it's very slow. Our input is much better because with the data rate from vision is, I don't know, many thousands of times, maybe a million times better than the rate at which we can output. So input is maybe, I don't know, roughly a million times better than output. And so what a Neuralink device can do is improve that bandwidth, allow you to be sort of much more symbiotic with the AI extension of yourself. Mm. So you can think of like a human brain really could be arguably divided into two parts. One is kind of like the primitive brain, the reptile brain it's sometimes called. It's like a sort of basic instincts, and then we've got the cortex, like the higher level thinking, planning, and that kind of thing. the two operate symbiotically. So I haven't yet met anyone who wants to delete their limbic system or delete their cortex. Everyone's quite happy having both.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I like it the way it is, you know. But your cortex is way smarter than your limbic system. But the irony is that even though the cortex is way smarter than the limbic system, most of what it's doing is trying to make the limbic system happy. It's like limbic system's hungry. Okay, let's get some food. The limbic system is horny. Okay, let's, you know, have sex or whatever. We'll see. I mean, the sheer amount of effort the cortexes of all the humans have put into trying to get laid is insane.
It's got to keep the species going.
Yeah, but not even if you know it's not for procreation. Like the limbic system is really like too simple to understand that like sex does not result in procreation, because for almost all of human existence that it did. Birth control is a very recent thing. So the limbic system is like trying to incent procreation, and but now we can effectively hack the limbic system by doing procreation, but by having sex without procreation. So, which is, I guess, maybe part of the issue with why do we have more kids? Is like in the past it would just happen because in order to make your limbic system happy, you'd have sex. You didn't have birth control, so you'd pop out some kids.
Yes.
So that's how it used to be. So even though you've got a cortex that's way smarter than the limbic system, the cortex is still basically just trying to make the limbic system happy. And then if you think of like the computers as a sort of a third layer, the AI is a third layer. It's not necessarily the case that the AI would be acting contrary to our interests. I think if it's closely linked with biological intelligence, I think it could actually be just simply, again, trying to make the cortex happy, which is trying to make the limbic system happy. So I think we'll put even more computing power to try to get laid, basically. Now the AI is going to help you get laid.
I think what it is that concerns people about it, number one being new, but I think the main thing is the fact that this is something that's like inside your body, right? I think the idea of putting a chip in, the idea of someone putting a chip in my brain, I just have a visceral no, right? Like I have a very visceral reaction.
It's an optional thing. I mean, we're not going to,
Would it be though long term?
I hope so. I think it should be optional. Yeah, it'd be bizarre if it was not. No, I think it's
kind of like how. The reason I ask is because smartphones right now are sort of optional, but if you don't have a smartphone, the way everything is sort of designed around society, you cannot have a smartphone, but it's a massive hindrance and disadvantage in many ways.
True. A smartphone is almost essential in a modern society to do things.
Yeah. So could a Neuralink end up in that same sort of place?
It's possible, but I'm just saying, if it does, it's many decades from now. So it's not like, it's not today's problem.
Yeah.
I'd worry a bit more about digital superintelligence. I'd worry about, let's try to avoid World War III.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we're at least having enough kids to sustain our population. Basic stuff like that.
Yeah.
Please make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment down below about what topics you would like to see covered next. Thanks for watching.